For y'all that don't know me, my name is EPHRAIM Marrero, state number FT3665, and I'm presently serving a life sentence in the DOC in Pennsylvania for a crime that I didn't commit. I was convicted on circumstantial evidence and no physical evidence, absolutely no physical evidence. The reason being is because I was out there on the scene the night that it happened. To give some context, back in March 5th of 2001, while we was out on a corner, there was a shooting that occurred, and Marcus Burroughs, Tamika DeJesus, and El Qasim Jr., all three of these people had gotten shot. Unfortunately, Marcus Burroughs had lost his life. Tamika DeJesus and El Qasim Jr. both lived. Some background to it, how I was implicated in the case was that, being as I was out there, the one individual who survived was under the impression that I had to know who actually did the shooting, so they started implicating me. A little bit of detail of it was that after the shooting happened on March 6th, well, the night of the shooting, let me take it back to the night of the shooting. The night of the shooting, while they were still living, the arriving officer was able to question all three witnesses, and all three witnesses stated that they didn't see who shot them or who actually did the shooting. The very next day, on March 6, 2001, the detectives were able to question Tamika DeJesus, and upon her questioning, she said the same thing, that she didn't see, and she gave a detail of how she believed it happened. Unfortunately, she didn't see who had actually committed the shooting, so they went ahead and tried to speak with El Qasim Jr. They weren't able to speak to him until March 12th because he was recovering from his wounds. So on March 12th, they were able to speak with him, and when they spoke with him, he actually gave a description of the individual who shot him. And when he gave that description, he gave a description of a white Hispanic male, and gave a description of the clothing that he was wearing, everything of that nature, and left it at that. Upon that, his release from the hospital, they spoke to him again on April 1st, 2001. And when they spoke to him in 2001, April 1st, he gave him another statement to the fact that someone had gave his older brother information, and that someone else had actually seen me commit the crime. When they spoke to this individual who supposedly had saw me commit the crime, this individual's name was Christopher McNear, and he gave his description. His description was different from the one that El Qasim Jr. gave of the shooter. Well, after that happened, on May 17th, 2001, detectives had received some information from Kim Wallace, who had said that there was an individual named Ant who was actually involved in the homicide, and he was supposedly to be with me. Well, when they questioned Ant, this kid named Anthony Cheatham, he said that he was out there, but he had left about 45 minutes prior to the shooting. They tried to question this Kim Wallace, but never were able to do so because she had gave a fictitious address, so they were unable to contact her. After that, on May 29th, that's when they actually interviewed Anthony Cheatham. After that, the case went cold. From there. I had got, unfortunately, I had gotten arrested twice after that for unrelated situations, unrelated cases. And on July 17th, I had actually spent some time in the county jail. Throughout all this time, no detectives ever spoke to me about the case. Nobody ever questioned me about the case. And I was unaware that I was even a suspect of the case. At which point, when I had got out of the county jail, I had moved to South Carolina in about March of 2002. And April 18th of 2002, Richard Spady, who is actually a friend to Marcus Burroughs, El Qasim Jr., and Christopher McNear, he had gotten arrested for a DUI while he was on probation for intimidation of witness and aggravated assault. he somehow made bail and then gotten arrested again on May 21st, 2002 for a slew of charges. Gun charge, carrying a firearm in a public street, burglary, and simple assault. All these charges were placed on him, at which point his back judge placed a judge-only detainer upon him, and he was incarcerated and had to wait to the outcome of both cases and to see his back judge. On June 28, 2002, he somehow got that May 21st arrest dismissed right a month after he had gotten arrested. So May 21st he got arrested. June 28th, them charges were dismissed, but he was still being held over for his driving under the influence charge that he had obtained in April of 2002. And September 30th, 2002, he had his girlfriend call up the homicide detectives, in which he had her state to them that he had information about a homicide. The homicide detectives, one detective, Jeffrey Perry, picked up the case, and on October 4th, he had gave a statement to the detectives and said that I was the one that actually committed the shooting. And when he gave his description, he gave a different description than Christopher McNear had given primarily, and he gave a different description than what El Qasim Jr. gave when his first was interviewed. So after that, on October 10th, El Qasim Jr. gave a third statement in which he also implicated me. And what's ironic about this is that between Richard Spady's October 4th
conference recording has started.
Between Richard Spady's October 4th statement and El Qasim Jr.'s October 10th statement, they said the exact same thing, to which they said I had pointed a gun at them and the hood on my head fell off, which I find coincidental that after 19 months they both remember the same exact thing as far as what happened, but don't have the same description of clothing. On October 16th, Richard Spady's DUI charges were somehow wavered as not guilty. Then on November 3rd, he was released from incarceration by his back judge. On November 4th, an arrest warrant was signed for my arrest, and then I was arrested on November 5th. And that's the background of my case and the situation that I'm in. The fact of the matter is that there was never no real investigation or no real forensics collected. The crime scene unit never once created a trajectory report to try to determine if witnesses that were coming forward were being actually sincere about what they were saying, were they misleading, or were they false. So there was no real evidence to say whether these individuals were testifying or giving correct statements. Secondly is they had three different descriptions from the beginning. El Qasim Jr. gave a description of a white-skinned Hispanic male with a flat dark mustache, a yellow and black windbreaker with a hoodie, and the yellow and black windbreaker had Adidas running down his sleeve. Well, when Christopher McNear was questioned, he gave what I was supposed to be wearing, which was a long dark gray coat with a black hoodie. Now, when Richard Spady gave his statement 19 months later, he said that I was merely wearing a hoodie, sweatshirt, jacket type. And through all of this, homicide detectives are supposed to be detectives, and they're supposed to detect the difference within these statements, and never once did that come to mind that all three of these individuals were saying that I had three different clothings on. On top of that, both myself and El Qasim Jr.'s Richard Spady and Marcus Burroughs all grew up around the same neighborhood. They knew me for years, yet they tried to say they didn't know me. This is the predicament I'm in. Everybody looks at homicide detectives and the lack of effort they put towards actually investigating cases, but nobody ever looks at witnesses and the motive that they have to testify falsely. The motive that they had was that I was actually out there, and they feel that though I knew who actually did it, and if I wasn't going to tell, then I was the one going to get the blame for it. So that's where I stand. Can I prove all of that? Not so. I can prove that I have three different descriptions. I can prove that there was some things that don't make sense when it came to the investigation, but I cannot prove my innocence because there's no physical evidence. So my thing is trying to get back in the court to maybe somehow prove through crime scene reconstruction or trajectory evidence that I'm actually not the one who committed the crime and that their testimonies are actually false. And that's where I stand. And that's my fight.